back to another edition of the Tetracast. This is RPG Site's weekly podcast where we get the site staff together to talk about our favorite genre of video games. I'm your host. My name is Brian Vitale. Joining me, I have Josh Torres.
My favorite genre of games, leaks.
Adam Vitale.
Hello.
And Chow Minwoo.
How's it going?
We are missing James Galizio today because he is our boots on the ground in Southern California, because we are recording this on Saturday, June 10th, basically sandwiched between a handful of all the different random summer showcases, publisher directs, all those things. And James is having a lot of hands-on opportunities on site in place. So he will be reporting back next week with all of the juicy details. So to kind of tee us up for at the time we're recording this, we have witnessed and we're going to report on the events of Summer Games Fest, the main showcase that was held on Thursday, the Guerrilla Collective stream of all the new indie announcements, a certain Instagram goof that we're going to be leading off with in not too long. We are recording this on the same day that the Future Games Show, Wholesome Direct, and Games Radar stream. So anything from those we will report on next week. And then within the next couple of weeks, or within the next week, we're looking at a whole lot of publisher showcases, the Xbox Showcase, PC Gaming Show, Capcom, RGG. I'm sure I'm missing one. But so this week will be pretty heavy on news, but next week I feel like we're going to have a lot of heavy hitters landing in 7 days. And by the time you're listening...
5-hour Final Fantasy 16 stream.
Oh yeah, we might talk. We might talk about that. Maybe.
I don't know if I could ever be excited for any game to watch a 5-hour stream, to be honest. I mean, good for you if you are. Just that's a lot.
Yeah. That's too much. You know what I'd rather do with that 5 hours? I'd rather play the game.
Yeah, they're almost certainly going to release the demo.
I'm sorry, but every time when someone says the word Final Fantasy 16, I just kind of zone out and not pay attention because I try to keep the game kind of.
Yeah. It's that's the marketing that they want to do because that's the way you sell games these days. But shout out to James. Like we mentioned earlier. Like normally during this, I guess not E3 time, since E3 is not really a thing at this year and maybe not ever again. But normally we'd have a team of like maybe 5 to 6 people out there. And instead, because the kind of the scattershot nature of this whole thing coming together, we just only have one out there because James is the only one really local to that now since I moved out of California. So,
and I think
if I was still in California, I would still go. I would go definitely, but that's how it goes. So,
I think a lot of this stuff kind of came up it kind of came together really quickly. So normally for E3, at least the few years that I was able to go, the last 2 years before it shut down, is that you have to get your tickets ahead of time if you're not local to the area. I mean, you want to know that you're going to have appointments all set up. Where here it kind of feels like it's all coming together, kind of not in the last moment, but kind of close to that. So since it wasn't a sure thing, people were more hesitant to fly out there. But
yeah, I mean, even then, because when you think about E3 is a lot more organized. On top of the tickets, you have appointments booked way in advance, maybe a month out in advance. This is only within a few weeks. Sometimes even 2 months out in advance. And also,
for example, the Sandland game that was revealed a couple days ago, that they just made appointments literally after that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Holy shit.
So
yeah, that's within 24 hours, right. If that.
It'll be interesting to wrap up with James next week because not at the convention center, don't know where they're located. Just they have these different mixers at different hotels and restaurants and bars around the area. So it'll be interesting to see how did it all come together. You just have your contacts and someone knows someone and we're meeting at this place at this time, or you get your appointments established the day ahead of time. I don't know. It seems kind of fun, but also a little bit just different from the norm.
And we'll hear more about from James next week. But but stuff like the mixed indie gaming showcase getting canceled because the organizers didn't have the proper permits to showcase it, so they had to cancel that whole event. And then I guess some person maybe an influencer of sorts held a live stream and said, hey, if you were going to showcase something at this event, but we're trying to get as many as we can on this instead. So just to illustrate, the very scattershot nature of this kind of whole independence from E3, and it's hard trying to organize one event alone, but having a string of different smaller events and like just trying to organize that and what that looks like, it's wild. It's wild. So we've been through this like for several years now, ever since 2020. But it just becomes it becomes bigger and bigger, and as you become bigger yet still independent from like that whole E3 conglomerate, it becomes trickier to organize because you're getting bigger.
And it's interesting because like you would see arguments when like E3 was going to come back under Repop but failed to. Like, well, publishers don't need E3. Who wants all of their news all crowded around a single time? You're just going to be drowned in the noise. And then that's kind of what's happening anyway. So there's like the positive side of it where, yeah, there's a chance that your game could, if it doesn't land quite right, end up kind of getting crowded out. But also, if you happen to have like a well-presented showing, this is the place where you can really kind of make yourself noticed. It's kind of like that double-edged sword. So like if you make it like if your game ends up becoming like, wow, that really neat game that was shown at PC Gamer Show 2023, that was really neat. Or we talk about a game like, yeah, this was first shown a few years ago at PC Gamer Show or Wholesome Direct or whatever. If you manage to land that sort of zeitgeist, I think that's kind of what publishers, especially for these indie and AA titles, are kind of hoping for.
Yeah, and Adam, you can speak more to this, but think about like the frequency and of emails you get and press releases you get from E3 compared to like this string of smaller events, what that looks like for your inbox, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just today, it's we have 3 different streams going on. They're all more AA indie focused, so sometimes it's a little bit, in terms of like coverage scope, in terms of what games are being announced, what games do we need to cover, in terms of our genre scope of being an RPG. It's like, wait, which game was revealed at which showcase? Who's the publisher again? And then some of them we get emails for. Some of them are so small that we don't, because they're not really being published by a PR agency. So it's trying to make sure we get all the information for all the games that are being revealed, even though they're smaller scale, can be a little bit tricky to make sure we have all the details.
If it's not clear already, this will be a pretty news-focused podcast, even though I think next week will even be bigger in that regard. But at least this way we can kind of shrink what's on our plate in 7 days by covering all the things that have come out so far. A couple of things even ahead of when initially planned. We will have a small games talk section here at the start of the podcast for a couple games. Kind of keep it a little bit abbreviated this week, but we are going to focus on a major release that of the last 7 days, and that is, of course, Diablo IV. So I do know that several of us on staff have had interest in playing this, but the person who has made the most progress on Diablo IV so far is Josh. So, Josh, I have not managed to have time to start Diablo IV quite yet. I was listening and watching to you play last night or the night before. You had made your way, I believe, through Act 1, a few hours into the game. I'm not quite sure exactly how many, but what are your thoughts on this so far? Just kind of tee us off with this release.
Yeah, this one's it's an interesting kind of evolution of where the team has gone from the first Diablo, and of course Diablo 2, and then Diablo 3, and then to this game. It's not really, I don't know, like it's a really fun game. First off, like it's still like the Diablo that I remember playing. It's still very much like obviously isometric action RPG, very responsive. Just very fun to level up your character. It kind of takes like bits from like Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. Like it kind of takes like the good parts of Diablo 3 and like kind of puts on that Diablo 2 sort of atmosphere. Because if you remember when Diablo 3 first launched, aside from like obviously the major server issues, Error 37, and all that, yeah, the real money auction house. This game doesn't have the real money auction house, but it does have the modern sort of monetization that the battle pass, like the several tiers of a paid battle pass. You have the in-game shop where you can buy cosmetics. You have to like buy the in-game a certain type of currency, and then you can use that currency to buy like cosmetics. So it's kind of takes on that modern gaming monetization model, and it does have like sort of like games as a service type of stuff in it, like for example, in this game, when you're roaming around, it's like an open world, but like in that open world, like it has like that Destiny style of, hey, there'll be like events that people who are around can go participate in it, whoever it happens to be in that server instance that you're in. So like when you look at the map, sometimes there'll be highlighted zones, even that you haven't explored. It says, oh, there'll be an event here like 5 minutes and 35 seconds, and then if you want to go there, you can go there and participate either by yourself or other people if anyone is around. You do that, and then they reward like some experience and some loot there. But so to kind of leading into this, like, well, what is this about now? And I don't remember like Diablo 3 and the expansion, the Reaper of Souls, like really went places, but it's like all fuzzy in my head. Obviously, you fought Diablo at the end of the base game, and then in the Reaper of Souls, you kind of had like the angel side of the conflict, if I remember correctly.
I remember Diablo 3's story was, I don't want to.
It was trash fire to me.
Okay, I was going to say that, but I was going to say it carefully.
Yeah, it was all over the place. Like
it's Deckard Cain. Okay, Diablo 3 spoilers from 10 years ago or more than that.
He fucking dies at the end of Act 2.
Deckard Cain's like granddaughter becomes Diablo. It was very
strange. It turns out the warrior just had sex with that random potion seller. Turns out she's fucking evil. Okay, what the hell, man? Okay.
And then, so my memory from my personal impression, because I did play Diablo 3 a fair bit actually. It kind of became like a holiday game with Adam and my other brothers, so we played it for a few years in a row. The base game story, I know people don't play Diablo for story, but that's what I remember. Wasn't very good or very interesting. The expansion I thought actually was quite a bit better. The Reaper of Souls. In terms of being just, I latched onto it more.
The expansion. I was gonna say, did they leave the story end in a cliffhanger, like a sequel bait, and then they never made a sequel?
Honestly, I don't remember.
I don't remember Reaper of Souls' story. That I just know it was it Anarius focused? I forgot what was the angel's name. It's
it's Tyrell forgot his identity or whatever. Like I forget if that was base game or Reaper of Souls. There's gonna be someone listening that played Diablo 3 recently. He's like, oh, I can't. You don't remember what's what? Like, dude, this was 10 years ago. But yeah,
I think Reaper of Souls is Tyrell focused. That kind of.
He had a memory issue. He didn't remember who he was, right. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, like Tyrell." Yeah, yeah, like all of us apparently. But the word of mouth that I've heard from Diablo 4 from people that I know in person have played it is someone's like, hey, the story's actually good this time. I don't know like on what criteria they're judging that, but I haven't heard it quite as lambasted as 3 was in terms
it's a pretty interesting narrative structure. So at the very beginning of the game, you're kind of this nameless wanderer. You enter the realm of Sanctuary, and Sanctuary is kind of like the land where people live in between the eternal conflict between demons and angels. So you and then you kind of stumble upon this town. You decide to help them out, and then but like this town is like kind of full of crazy people. They become like, even before you stumbled upon them, they became Lilith servants, because at the very beginning, the opening cinematic, some bandits enter a cave, and then they've kind of been led there, and they've reawakened Lilith, who's kind of the mother of Sanctuary, kind of, and Lilith doesn't take a side between angels and demons. She's kind of like the neutral force in the eternal conflict here. So you after you save this town from like their local demon troubles, you kind of get intoxicated by them and kind of get let out, and like as you're like unconscious, you're fed a little bit of the blood of Lilith, and then you have a resistance to it. So you're not charmed by Lilith. You're not like you don't become one of her servants, but you do gain the ability to sort of interact with these petals, that like this petal motif that surrounds Lilith. There's markings on the ground, and they show you like flashback Lilith has gone. So that's how the main story narrative structure is presented. Is like you're trying to track down Lilith, trying to find out what she's up to. We know she just have like a part in the eternal conflict, but she's clearly trying to like mess with humans for some grand goal, but you don't know what it is. So that's why you're after her. And so, like, at main story points, you've seen where she's at, and you see like this marking on the ground, and you kind of see a flashback and interact like what happened there. So at the very as you start to branch out, after the prologue and then start going to Act 1, but it does an interesting thing where after you finish the prologue, and then you're in this town called Kyoshavan or something, or I forgot. But and on the map you see that you have access to Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 because there are certain points in the map where you can start these acts. So technically, you can actually, I assume, but how it's presented on the map, you can play these acts in any order that you want. But due to proximity of where you are, it's just easy to go Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 because of where you are on the world map. If you wanted to start at Act 3 first, you have to go all the way to the other side of the map, which you can walk to on foot. It's just going to be sort of a trek there. And the world does scale also because you have these world tiers that you pick, and the world tiers are sort of your difficulty. In Diablo, you kind of scale up in difficulty as you finish the campaign. So I'm doing a sorcerer. I'm on world tier 2, the veteran difficulty, because you gain more experience, better loot, So I'm like, okay, sure. So it carries over the Diablo 2 aesthetics, so it's really dark and moody and kind of that dark atmosphere. While in Diablo 3, some of the criticism from fans of Diablo 2 was it's too colorful. What are all these colors on the screen? It feels too cheery, too bright.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm. And so this one really tries to step back into that Diablo 2 aesthetic. But it's not as when you're leveling up your character, it's still very much like Diablo 3 in the sense that you're not manually picking what stats you're leveling up. As you're leveling up, your stats automatically scale, and you get a skill point. And what this does for this game is, unlike Diablo 3 where you gain new skills automatically as you level, this one actually has a skill tree. And the skill tree is kind of weird because it's sort of it's the diamond nodes, big diamond core nodes that you progress through, but each of these nodes have splintering skills off of them. So say this first diamond node that I start off with, you can learn either and or depending on if you want to, there's gonna be 3 or 4 spells on this node. There's teleport, firebolt, ice blades, and or a lightning spell, or arc lash or something. And once you get skill points, you can you can learn ice blades and teleport, or you can save up that skill point and invest more into that skill. Core skill, because from that core skill that you have from these things, there's little pips to enhance them. So say from the teleport node, there's 2 things. There's an enhanced teleport, and then from that enhanced teleport, you can learn a teleport that that I don't know what the teleport is. That it gives you a damage buff when you after you teleport for 3 seconds, and then there's another teleport that further reduces cooldown or something. So from that enhanced teleport, there's 2 pips, and then this is the point where you either want to choose either the teleport pip that you get the damage buff, or the one that further reduces cooldown. So that's the either or selection based off of that enhanced teleport pip. And that's the same for each of these other skills, like the firebolt and the ice blades. They have an enhanced version that you can learn from them that will further reduce their cooldown and make them more potent, and then have 2 more pips from that enhanced node that will actually give additional properties, but each property is both different from each other, if that makes sense.
I'm trying to remember Diablo 3. If I remember right, in Diablo 3, I remember a menu where you have 5 different alternates. They're little different passives when you select a skill in your skill tree, and then you kind of augment or shift it just slightly. using different selections. But it's been too
forget-
long for me to
yeah,
remember the
yeah.
minutia. But
I
that's
forget
how
if
that one
that was all
worked.
level gated. Like I'm trying to remember if that's all level gated. Like say like lightning hydras and venom hydras. I forgot if like lightning hydras you unlock at like say level 37, and then venom hydras you unlock level 39. I forgot if like you unlock that linearly.
I
or
think
not.
you unlocked like more. You could slot more passives the more you leveled up.
Okay.
So I believe like once you're level, what's the max level? I don't remember. 80. You could slot like 5 passives. Time to go to the Diablo wiki and double check. No, actually, I'm not going to do that. But I do remember like every 10 or 20 levels, you had to pick 1 or 2 passives, and then it could eventually slot 3 or 4 more once you're max level. So that's how 3 worked.
Yeah. So as you're slotting in these skill points, you're gradually making progress to like the next major diamond node that has like another set of like core skills that you can learn from it, and I'll have like that. Each course has like their own miniature like tree that gives you the enhanced version of them, and then like the either or property that like you can learn from them. So as you're investing skills into like the previous diamond node, you're making progress to the next one as well. And then at any time, like you don't have to like make progress on the latest one to further increase like the main linear progress from node to node. So you can always like go back and like further increase like the level rank of like an older spell or skill, and you're still making progress like to the next like major diamond node. You're not locked to always be investing points into the latest one to make progress. So it's fairly versatile in that aspect. There's like a lot of build variety. You can refund skill points in this up to like level 30, I believe, and then it'll start having like a monetary or resource cost to.
Oh, that's kind of interesting. I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, so eventually you will have to like lock into a build, but like you can always still refund, but it'll start costing you in a more permanent fashion if you do. So you're not always locked to it, but at a certain point, you have to start making decisions if you want to save as much as possible in the long run. So
I guess that's just like the modern game design thing that we were talking about, kind of with the battle pass and the microtransactions and all that.
Yeah. So it's a fairly
But
like
no real money auction house. That's gone. Hooray.
yeah. So so overall, like I think it's been I'm still like in my first playthrough, still kind of leveling. I'm like level 20-ish. Yeah, level like a little over level 20 now. I've only been playing alone for the most part, but it's still a lot of fun. I'm doing like a frost mage build, and that's been really cool. There's like there's like interesting things like some of like I got a legendary that like gives like a barrier when I'm damaged and when I have low health, and then like it'll pop up a barrier, and I'm like able to kind of fire off my spell rotation that's like very freeze focused from it. So I do have like a safe space to kind of fire that off and not worry about like incoming damage. I still haven't like don't really know what the Paragon system looks like, because obviously I'm not max level yet, and the story is like okay for the most part. Like these acts are very much like self isolated stories on NPCs that are following Lilith's trail, like the of people who have been affected by Lilith. So in the first act, you kind of meet this lady who's searching for her missing mother. They learn that like Lilith ambushed her the people that she was with, and kind of like kidnapped her mother to kind of do her bidding, because she needed um like the blood of a human to like kind of gain passage to a certain thing. So you kind of come face to face to like this woman's mother who's been corrupted. So like you're kind of forced to put her down because she's too far gone already. And then that's very early on in her arc, and then she's struggling with the grief of that, and and she's trying to make ultimately she's like, Lilith has to pay, so like you help her out, trying to like gain passage to where Lilith was, because you have to like get a blessing to be worthy enough to follow Lilith through this passage. So you kind of have to sidetrack elsewhere to find this blessing at like a nearby town and do their rituals and stuff like that, and ultimately kind of have to witness like this daughter kind of deal with her grief and like making it like letting her mom go, like letting her pass on peacefully because like she was trying to keep her spirit at bay in like the realm of sanctuary and so on. And now in Act 2, you know, you go off to another like somewhat far off town, and you meet another set of people who are, you know, Lilith has gone through there. They're trying to figure out what is Lilith up to as well. So that this seems to be kind of going to be the on-running theme of like, well, like, you know, what's Lilith up to? And well, and if you can ever catch up to her to be there where she's at the moment, instead of like, oh, Lilith's been through here. Right now, it's been a lot of, oh, I'm here, but Lilith isn't here. I missed her. I didn't capture her.
This is going to be a bit of a tangent, but also kind of relevant. You know what that reminds me of? Like the first half of the original Final Fantasy VII, where it was like Sephiroth was here, Sephiroth was here, Sephiroth was here.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, how I've been playing right now is I've been mainly doing main story quests. If there's like any like class related quests that like like unlock enchantments, I've been doing those. But other than that, I've been doing main story quests because I hear very late on in the campaign you get a horse, and that makes traversing the open world a lot faster. So I'm just like, okay, I'm not gonna take a lot of time to like, you know, do all these side quests if I know I have a faster means of traveling later down there, because everything scales. So like if I go back to these side quests, they're still going to be like at my level appropriate thing, and so forth. And I think that's how co-op works too. It's like if you're co-oping with someone and you have like you're facing a mob, that mob will be level appropriate for you, and then that mob will be level appropriate to them. So they're still getting something out of it, like you know, some level progress and level appropriate loot. So like in that sense, it's kind of fair all around. But you don't feel like you're kind of being held back because you're helping someone much lower level than you,
or they're being carried.
Yeah. In some aspects, you're still being carried, but yeah, for sure. I think, I almost forgot to mention. Like, I think at level 20, you gain like an enchantment slot after like a side quest, and what this is like, it's pretty interesting because each skill that you learn has an additional effect that's called an enchantment effect, and you can slot any skill into this enchantment slot, and it'll give you different effects. So, example, I have a blizzard spell. I know blizzard for sorcerers, like, you know, you fire it off. It kind of puts the ground like in a cold state for a while. It'll slow enemies going through it as they're taking AoE damage from it. So if you slot, you can have this both in your active slot and like in your enchantment slot. So obviously you can fire off the spell like normal, but also if you put it into the enchantment slot, it'll have the additional effect of it'll cast a blizzard around you for free, every 15 seconds for 6 seconds.
I like that. I actually remember that from one of their developer diaries, probably like 2021 or 2020, pretty early on. It brings a nice aspect of buildcraft to it, where it's not just choose one or the other. It's offensive, defensive, slot matters.
Right. And then like if you put like teleport in the enchantment slot instead of like, oh yeah, I forgot to like mention like this game inherently has when Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls came to consoles, you know, they had that dodge roll that they added for controllers. Now that's just like a universal thing that for both PC and controller player, keyboard and mouse and controller players can do. So that's just a universal mechanic. It's not like
Well, I only ever played Diablo 3 on PlayStation 4 or 3.
Yeah,
one of those. And I didn't realize that was added for that. It's neat.
Yeah, it was added for that. So yeah, so like if you put teleport in the enchantment slot, it'll turn that dodge roll into like another teleport. That is on cooldown as well. So just little stuff like that. Like you can like slightly tweak like your build with these little nice effects to whether you want to use it offensively, defensively, or like situation utility wise, like that teleport enhancement. So that's just like my kind of quick rundown of Diablo 4 right now as I'm going through it. It's been fun. I'm really just to see like, you know, what endgame looks like, how it progresses from there. I'm not playing a hardcore character. If I was playing a hardcore character, I would have had my run wiped last night, because of course there will be some when you're doing solo bosses, it can be quite cruel when them having mechanics that push you into explosions. And since I'm a sorcerer, I'm kind of not the tankiest. So sometimes I'll get one shot, and you're just like, well, them's the breaks. So, but yeah, it's been. I'm interested to play more of it. It has me hooked right now.
Yeah, whenever I do get around to Diablo 4, I'll probably just stick to a very simple story mode run. That's kind of how I treated Diablo 3 as well. Won't probably go into the post-game season stuff, even though I know there's been a few statements from the developers saying that they're intending to have people play this game for a long, long time, which is, of course, kind of par for the course for the series. The only other game that we have explicitly listed to talk about here before we go into all the slate of news is that I wanted to just have like 5 minutes to wrap up my thoughts on a game that I introduced last week. And that was my starting time with the System Shock remake, which finally did release on PC and is slated for consoles, I believe, later this year. I forget if the date's specified yet or not. So I did finish System Shock about 3 days ago, and I just wanted to kind of give some final thoughts here very loosely. So when I last talked about it, I was talking about how I was really glad how it had that old school feel, doesn't have a lot of overwrought cutscenes or in playing the game. It's very clear what the game is within 5 minutes of booting it up. There's no like learning curve, really. It's very, very straightforward, very, very specified scope. I'll put it that way. Whatever the opposite of scope creep is. It doesn't have a lot of superfluous systems. It's very, very streamlined in a way that seems very smart. When I was playing this game, the one anecdote that I want to bring up, and Adam was actually watching me play this, and people who played System Shock back in the 90s or have played the remake might have an impression on this, but there's a region of the space station of the Citadel that you're in called Beta Grove. So as part of the recovering the Citadel from Shodan, about maybe 60% of the way through the game, one of the wings of the station is completely contaminated with like mutated plants and contamination and radiation. And you go in there and it's like a dot debuff on your character that's constant. You can't do much of anything about it. The one shield that you can find beforehand doesn't really protect against it. And I was going in there and I was trying to like find the most efficient path so that I was limiting my exposure, and I was dying constantly, loading quick saves and dying constantly, and being stubborn, not going back and stocking up on health items or whatever. I was just going to try to see if I could wing it. And I was frustrated and I was struggling. I'm like, am I bad at this game? Am I just bad? And then so I don't like doing this, but I was desperate. So I started Googling like System Shock Beta Grove. And the general impression I got was like, oh yeah, that area always sucked. It sucked in the original and it sucked in the remake. But it's the sort of thing though, where once you conquer it, you do kind of appreciate it, because it kind of stresses you a little bit, and then knowing that you're able to overcome it is kind of like a reward in itself. So I actually had to like, all right, time to slow down, time to go back, time to pick up all the random crap that you can pick up and like synthesize back into junk loot that you can then turn into credits. And like basically it's a whole process of picking up random stuff, vaporizing it down, turning it into credits, going to the med bay, buying a bunch of med kits, buying a bunch of detox kits, just scouring around, making sure I have more ammo and like getting all ready to go. Because the game has a lot of resource management in terms of almost survival horror-esque, limited ammo supplies, limited energy supplies. You're never quite sticking to one weapon because you're not going to ever have enough ammo just to stick one weapon. You kind of have to go with whatever you have well stocked at the moment. So that was actually kind of fun in terms of, okay, I picked up a lot of shotgun bullets. I've never really used a shotgun, but let me try it here. Oh, the shotgun has an alternate fire mode where it uses incendiary damage. Let me see how that works. Oh, I'm low on shotgun ammo, but I have a lot of energy packs. So let me go to an ion beam and see how that works. So it's kind of almost like the weapon durability system in Breath of the Wild, where it kind of, the game encourages you through limited resources to have to change up your approach, which I appreciate. And the Beta Grove that I brought up, yeah.
So these parts of games, like just in general, I'm kind of being generic here. It's like these sort of like frustrating kind of high resistance moments in games. They can be tedious in the moment. Like you're annoyed, like this is difficult, this is tough. But then like once you surpass it or overcome it, you feel like you accomplished something, almost kind of like, yeah, fuck you, game, you can't beat me, and it's kind of satisfying in that way.
No, I mean you're right. It might sound a bit silly, but you are right. So like I came back to Beta Grove. I made like a new hard save, and I had like 6 med kits and 4 med packs and a bunch of detox kits and crap ton of ammo because I had gone and like scoured all the corners. The game has this kind of like limited respawn. Like as you progress through the story, Shodan will throw more enemies at you, which kind of keeps you on your toes because just because you cleared out a room doesn't mean you won't go back there and see more enemies spawn. But if you don't progress the story, it's very, very likely that if you re-go through an area, it will be kind of clear. So it does kind of have like this accomplishment feeling where it's like, okay, I'm going to go back to the maintenance level, but I've already kind of cleared through this and progressed most of the quests here. There's no like explicit quest, but all the tasks that you had to do. And now that all the enemies and all the hostiles are kind of cleared out, I'm going to make sure I find all the cameras, find all the like hidden items, all the different little storage lockers, and do some inventory management. Went back to Beta Grove, and it was one of those things where it is a resource drain. I went in with like I said, like 6 or 7 med kits, ended up using like 2/3 of what I had, but that's kind of like the reason why I went to go gather them in the first place. And like I was able to get through, and once I had paced myself, prepared myself, and took my time, I was able to clear it. And that was probably like the hardest single part of the game. It was a little bit downhill from there. And the game, like any good kind of it starts out very immersive simmy. It feels more like a straight up FPS in the back half, where it's a lot more combat focused. Your arsenal has grown from a couple weapons to like 6 or 7, like an old school, like what do they call those? Dad shooters, boomer shooters. And the only thing that I think has the game a little bit end on a whimper is they didn't know what to do with like the final showdown with Shodan. I won't spoil it specifically, but you fight her in cyberspace. So it's like a very unique gameplay system mechanic setup that doesn't play like the rest of the game, and I'm pretty sure is impossible to lose. But it also doesn't have the spectacle aspect of it. So it just kind of feels like a weird, like, oh, I guess we got to end the game now. It's not bad. It doesn't like ruin my experience, but it was just like, it wasn't the highlight.
Right.
And so kind of like no strong feeling one way or the other on that. So I enjoyed it, and I don't know, like it's for those that I know I kind of stated this last time, and it's a very like normie take, but if you did enjoy Prey from 2017, you will almost certainly like System Shock if you haven't played it back in the 90s or anything like that. I will say that I had a very persistent bug that was really frustrating that I saw on the Steam forums that other people were having as well, but doesn't seem to have been addressed, is that every once in a while, both my left click and right click just wouldn't register. And left click, of course, is fire, and right click is like interact. So that's really frustrating when you've got like your rail gun and you like are dodging in and out of fire, and you've got your shot lined up and you press fire and it doesn't go. You're like, God damn it.
It's your gun jamming. It's just realistic.
Well, like I was wondering at first, like, is there some sort of hidden mechanic? Because obviously, like if you're using an energy weapon and you run out of energy, that can happen. But it was like pervasive, and even like interacting with like doors or trying to pick up items, it wouldn't register. And I saw other people, I'm like, all right, this has to be like unintended. Maybe if you played it with a controller, but I played it with mouse and keyboard. So hopefully they fix that. That was really like the only other blemish on the game. I saw some people really up. I won't say up in arms. That's probably too dramatic, but kind of frustrated that achievements weren't unlocking. I didn't really care about that, but if like it is a bit frustrating if you are trying to get that. It's only on Steam at the moment. 100% Steam completion. Like the achievement for beating Shodan doesn't unlock properly. Like silly stuff like that. Or the achievement for like beating the game does, but not for the one like defeated Shodan.
That's funny.
Yeah, and it's like you can always use like Steam Achievement Manager to get that, but hopefully they released a patch for a few of the other issues, like some of the soft lock issues, a day before recording this on Friday or the 9th or Saturday or Thursday the 8th. But it took me about 25 hours. I'm glad I played it. It's not quite an RPG, honestly, but it's kind of in that adjacent space with a lot of the same kind of look and feel of a first-person RPG. But yeah, enjoyed my time with it. I might write something up. I might not. We'll see.
I'm interested to see if this does well. If they try to do a System Shock 2 remake and how long that'll take. Because while System Shock 1 is cool, I think my fondest memories of System Shock was in the second one. So I'm interested to see if this does well and like what a System Shock 2 remake would like look like.
Oh yeah, I guess there was a note that within the first week of sales, it sold 80,000, which apparently like exceeded expectations.
Huh.
So let's see.
I wonder what their expectations were, because, like, yeah, 80,000. I guess I don't know. 80, like, relative to what games sell these days, right? Like, 80,000 seems on the low end,
Mm.
but if it's above eternal expectations, then like that's great. That's awesome.
This is according to Game Sensor, so I don't know if they're trying to like extrapolate that based on other parameters. But as far as I know, Night Dive hasn't announced anything. But hopefully, it's done well. It seems like it's um, been received pretty well outside of a few bugs. So considering it wasn't quite development hell, but kind of close to it. So considering all that, I think it's a good accomplishment.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure they'll eventually expand platforms and see how that'll do in the long run.
And the last thing that I'll call out here before going into our slate of news is that we do have one major feature outside of news up on the site. Of course, last week we talked about the new, or really the first gameplay look at Dragon's Dogma 2. And of course, we do have the Capcom showcase in just a couple days, or is it literally tomorrow? No, it's in 2 days. So we're potentially going to see more from that there. Mirror Knight, who had freelanced on the site before, I forget what their previous feature was about. I'll go see if I can search that up. Wrote up a feature about when could Dragon's Dogma 2 take place relative to Dragon's Dogma 1. Some of the cut concepts from Dragon's Dogma 1 that didn't quite make it that could be addressed in Dragon's Dogma 2. Just basically a very fun speculative piece about what Dragon's Dogma 2 could bring to the table based on what the development of 1 and how that was received, and the return of all that talent for the sequel game 10 years later.
Yeah, this is a really, really great piece that this contributor Mirror Knight posted up. That's kind of like what Alex and I have been talking about ever since they keep showing off Dragon's Dogma 2. Is like a lot of it is like, for people who are really on the deep end of like followed like the development of Dragon's Dogma, like all the development talk that's come out ever since its original release. Like a lot of like the concepts that they kind of scrapped for that game is like kind of being reintroduced in this sequel, and that makes us really excited, because a lot of those initial concepts were like very wild and out there. It's like that's kind of crazy that like this amount was like cut for that game. It still turned out really well, of course, but like they could have gone even wilder, and it seems like some of that is being reintroduced in the sequel, and that's pretty exciting.
One of the things some of this was like from GDC talks back in like 2012, 2013, from Mitsuno and Co. Like apparently one of the scrapped ideas was a hand glider, like very Breath of the Wild-esque, the way it was described. So it's kind of interesting to see like, they had that concept, that idea in mind, but just couldn't implement it. And then of course we talked about during the reveal trailer, the I forget what they're called, if they even have a name, but the feline race was an initial concept for the first game that couldn't quite make it in, that is now here in Dragon's Dogma 2 based on the trailer. But yeah, the title of that feature up on the site is Dragon's Dogma 2 could be cashing in on the original game's concepts in the best way possible. Which is all we can really expect from a surprise sequel, so many years later.
Is it really a surprise? Everyone keep hinting there is a sequel over there.
I mean, we didn't know for the longest time Dragon's Dogma 2 was going to be a thing, right? Because we've wanted a sequel ever since the first Dragon's Dogma, then they came out Dragon's Dogma Online. Like, the sequel was never guaranteed to happen for as long as it took to announce. It was only until after they shut down Dragon's Dogma Online, and then they put up like that, hey, Dragon's Dogma anniversary celebration, right? That like that's kind of like everyone was crossing their fingers and toes for the sequel announcement that they did bring there, but a sequel was never guaranteed for that at all. So it's not like, so I wouldn't be understating or undermining like the significance of this game having a sequel, because for many fans, Dragon's Dogma is a near and dear game to their heart, and I don't want to take that anything away from that in regards to like the sequel being a known thing or not, because it was never guaranteed.
Yeah, that's true.
And with that, we will go on into our news slate. So our news slate is kind of binned here into 4 categories. The big 2 are Summer Games Fests, then the Guerrilla Collective, some other news that was announced in the meantime, just kind of along the side. But we are going to go open up with the one thing we kind of have to open up with here, and that is we finally got, in a roundabout way, confirmation of the long rumored, now kind of confirmed remake of Persona 3. This was spotted on a inadvertently posted Instagram video, likely to receive more information at the Xbox Showcase, which at the time of recording hasn't been conducted, though at the time of you listening likely has. So we are speaking to this based on the trailer footage, but without any accompanying press details otherwise, because this is unofficial at the point as I speak into the microphone. So Persona 3 Remake is officially titled Persona 3 Reload, looks built from the ground up, coming in early 2024. Now, a lot of the details we can kind of speculate from the 1-minute trailer here, and based, of course, on all the leaks and rumors that have been circulating for a long time now. For instance, in the trailer footage, it only shows the male MC. Don't know if that confirms or denies presence of the female MC. Don't know about presence of the answer or the FES content. Though it does seem to indicate direct control based on a couple bits of gameplay footage. So that was introduced in Persona 3 Portable. But of course, all these details are gleaning from the trailer and not from the any sort of official information from Atlas. So I'll hand it off to Adam here. I have not actually played Persona 3. The first one I played was 4. But when you look at the footage of Persona 3 Reloaded, how do you feel?
Actually, I played most of it. I haven't fully beat Fez, like with the female MC, but I beat the original a lot. I even beat the secret boss too.
Well, you mean Portable, because Fest doesn't have female MC.
No, I'm saying like was it Portable? It has the female MC.
Yeah.
I didn't beat that route.
Yeah, so Portable has the female MC, Fest has the answer. Which is why, and then that's kind of been like the sticking point for years now, is like there is no definitive edition. Is Persona 3 Reloaded going to be that? We would hope so, but we don't know.
Well, okay, as someone who has actually played base game, Fest, and Portable, and I definitely completed all of them to completion, even with female MC. I will say that like this is a pretty interesting, like. It's definitely inspired by the visuals of Persona 5, but it kind of retains sort of the aesthetic of 3. It's modernized in a pretty damn good way from like first glance. It does have like it does borrow sort of like the design philosophy and aspects that were not introduced but more prevalent in 5 compared to older Personas. Like when like they're transitioning like into the menu screen, like it has that water motif, or like the like the water splashing up, and the male MCs like has an upside down, like kind of like diving into the water, because a lot of Persona 3's motif is like kind of like diving into the soul sort of thing, and the color blue has always been Persona 3's color moniker. Like Persona 4 was yellow. Persona 5 is red, even though it's kind of weird because Persona 2 Innocent Sin also carries the red motif as well.
Persona what? 2? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Innocent
that's
Sin.
a tired joke. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it is definitely it looks to be really, really solid already from like visuals and design philosophy alone. I really wonder what they're going to do about the Tartarus layout, because if you remember the Tartarus dungeon in Persona 3, which was like the main thing the way that you
probably the worst aspect of the game. The core of the game.
The way you interact with Tartarus is during the midnight hour, this gigantic tower would prop up, and then like you advance through this tower, through its floors. This is where you fight shadows, kind of level up your personas. But every floor that you were in had like randomized layouts. Both Persona 3, Persona 4 had this of like just had randomized, randomly generated dungeon layouts, but they're all very generic, kind of like not really fun to like explore, because they're kind of like it feels very samey. And the aesthetic of it would sort of change at certain floors. This changed in Persona 4, obviously, with the whole theme of dungeons, and like each character having their own theme, their own environment in their dungeon, but still had randomly generated layouts for the dungeon floors. While in Persona 5, like kind of like it's sort of weird, but like the big thing about Persona 5 was like each dungeon was like pretty much handcrafted. Had like there was only like you knew the layout from floor to floor, or like from as soon as you infiltrated a palace. Like it was like a standard layout.
Would it be hard to imagine that they make like a actual handcrafted layout for Tartarus for the remake? Would that be possible? I would love to have that.
I think it would. I don't know. It's kind of hard because by its nature, Tartarus is kind of sort of like a big tower with many floors. So I don't know if you take what design philosophy you would take in terms of like how you climb up those floors, because you remember, if you remember, in the base Persona 3 you had like the fatigue system, where at like after you climb up a certain amount of floors, like your characters would get tired, so their performance in battle would weaken because they're tired, and that means you have to call it a night. Maybe you can adopt this to be like more like having fewer floors, maybe, but with more robust layouts. Maybe, I don't know.
If fewer floors, but remove the randomization, make them bespokely designed.
Yeah. So, but that would really be underselling like how massive the tower is. The Tartarus Tower is.
Maybe
right.
just kind of have like old Diablo games. You have like a set floor, but then there's always a randomized layout, on certain earlier aspect of it. So
I have to imagine they're going to improve it, but I don't know how they're going to improve it. Like I can't imagine that they're going to leave it as is, like it was originally.
Yeah, people will say, "What the hell is this shit?" People actually like this, and they'll be like, "Yeah." But oh man, I'm actually quite hyped for this because it is actually like my favorite out of the new Persona games. I don't like 5 as much because I feel like 5 kind of overstated its welcome, and I can't imagine the people that played Loyal with the 150 hours that it requires to beat it if you're doing a fresh run.
Yeah, and also like for completions, like Persona 3 is infamously like one of the Persona game that's like most strict in terms of like maximizing social links in a single run. Like you have to be very, very strict with like the scheduling, the calendar system, and like even there was like some RNG.
I think if you follow a guide and did it perfectly, you only have like a 5-day leeway.
Unlike Persona 4, I think Golden fixed it a little bit, but Persona 4 and Persona 5, even if you have a general idea of how to be somewhat efficient, you end up with plenty of extra days. But the 3 was like, follow that guide, and if you make a mistake, you're going to be boned.
You're fucked.
And also, like, remember that like this is like where the social link system kind of originated. So you had like a lot of like the some aspects of the social link system like that were like was cut out in later Persona games, like the social link reversal. Like you could actually respond poorly, and like you get negative effects for having a social link reversed.
Or if you just don't hang out with them long enough.
Oh yeah,
just stop being friends, and you have to like waste almost like an entire week to like repair the social link. It's just fucking, it's brutal.
To me, I kind of like that aspect of Persona 3 of like there's just like some things about it that like it's frustrating, but like it in a way, as I played later Persona games, I kind of weirdly missed that aspect because I kind of like being able to having that constant upkeep of like. You do want to like hang out. Like, if you don't hang out with someone for a long enough time, like they'll kind of feel sort of abandoned if you kind of just ditch them. Like it's like, okay, that makes sense.
It'll be like the 4 and 5 had no consequences doing that. It's like, it doesn't feel realistic. I mean, I know it's a video game, but
yeah. But so this is a kind of like a really exciting announcement, but it's also a big bummer that like they blew it on leaking. Like the official source leaked it themselves. It's not like a leaker did it for clout. It's like, hey, the official people did accidentally put it up at the wrong time. So a big spot of that Xbox showcase is kind of now known. Obviously, there's going to be more stuff at the Xbox showcase that we do not know that we're looking forward to. But this is kind of obviously one of the big announcements. It was very heavily rumored. But seeing this like be official coming early next year, it's exciting. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they decided to leave and what they decided to improve on, and most importantly, what is new in this. I'm excited to see like like sure the visuals are cool, having it a more modern take on it is cool, but I'm more interested like what are the gameplay changes, what are like the system changes, if what do they do for certain social links, and obviously what are they gonna do? Like I'm excited to see like the rival squad, what they look like. The one with Chidori and not Jesus and the nerd.
Jin,
Yeah, Jin.
fucking idiot.
Yeah, so this is exciting, and also like, man, I can. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to think. Really, like at the end of the day,
I'm just kind of curious, like what's going to happen with the English release. I mean, like the voice actors, are they going to reuse the old ones? Especially like some of them are like blacklisted. Like the
I imagine not. I imagine that there will be some voice actors that are going to replace Isaac because some time has passed and some of those voice actors have become bad eggs over the years. So I like it's a very normal thing to kind of get new voice cast roles if
And it's not, and wouldn't even be the first time the Persona English cast got replaced.
Exactly. So. You remember Chie?
Chie,
yeah,
and
she got like 4 different VAs almost.
Yeah.
But no, it was just 2. But still,
yeah. Naoto obviously also got went through voice actors changes.
And nobody still even know who the original one was.
I know that I love the original Naoto voice actress. I have no idea. Still to this day, I have no idea who it is. But yeah.
The other changes, I'm also wondering, like, what in the battle system. I actually love it that you can't control your partners. I know, but the game is actually designed that way. It's like your AI is actually like very smart on what you tell them to do. They just get frustrated in the game because they have no idea what the hell is going on, right?
Yeah, obviously, like some clips of the trailer, like Brian mentioned already, like that you do have direct control of your party members. It would be cool if like they still have like the auto change, like where like you can still set it so that they automatically control themselves, because there are some aspects like in Persona 3 where that's useful while you're just like going up floors, making progress. Not every battle encounter will be like. You don't need to like control all those characters. Like for bosses, is more important, sure, but like for like random mobs, it's like whatever.
Yeah, so basically in the trailer, there's not much combat footage, but the one bit that it shows is inputting an action for Yukari. So there you go. Direct control at least is an option. Which I feel like even if it worked without it before, I do kind of feel like that's the right move for a release in 2024.
That trailer is fake because she actually hit.
So I mean, obviously, more importantly, this is looking like it's going to be a worldwide simultaneous release. This is also coming to Xbox Game Pass on day one, which is a big win for them. Obviously, since the leaked version of this trailer was probably meant for the Xbox showcase, so they only show the Xbox platforms for now. Also coming to Xbox One.
Adam was actually like almost complaining genuinely and legitimately about this. So it's not uncommon, like especially for like a Nintendo Direct, that a title is announced and then like within 10 or 15 minutes we get the trailer uploaded on like Square Enix's or whoever the publisher's website saying it's okay, it's also coming to PlayStation or Xbox or PC or whatever. However, only about a year ago or so we had the announcement of like Persona 3 Portable and Persona 5. And then it was almost like a timed exclusive platform announcement because we didn't learn, they're coming to PlayStation as well until like a week later officially. It was really quite silly. So I'm hoping they don't do that again. I'm hoping it's just clear that we get direct news from Atlas shortly after the Xbox showcase saying that, yes, this is going to come out on other platforms because of course it is.
I feel like that's not going to be the case. I bet you that Microsoft paid to just have the.
I wouldn't be surprised.
They grab that bag. It's like, oh, you just want us to delay like for 24, 48 hours? Like, okay, easy, fucking thousands.
Pay us 6 figures or whatever it is for us to pretend it's Game Pass and Xbox exclusive for a week.
Yeah, there's no way it's exclusive to that.
No, I mean,
that's current market reality.
Not officially announced for PlayStation. Well, it's not officially announced, I guess, in any capacity. But it'd be silly to come back here in a week and be like the Xbox exclusive Persona 3 Reload. We know that's not the case. Hopefully not, but we'll see.
I think the remaining question is like, is this coming to Switch along with like the other Persona thing that leaked as well?
Yeah, so I guess we can go moving on into that. So the other news that is also slated to be officially announced at Xbox Showcase, but was inadvertently revealed on Atlas West's Instagram, is the announcement of a Persona 5 spin-off called Persona 5 Tactica. As the name implies, this is like a grid-based strategy RPG based on the character in the worlds of Persona 5. I don't know if there's anything in this trailer that indicates like any sort of like narrative positioning. It seems like it infers that the cast has kind of been separated into like a different world, so it feels like it kind of could slot in anywhere, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it looks to be like like a alternate setting, like
Mhm.
sort of like like sort of like a Persona 5 Striker situation of like, hey, they're kind of removed from the main plot line. They have other adventures. Obviously, in Persona 5 Strikers that took place after it, but like all the characters that you kind of meet are like separate from like that main core storyline. So this one
It
seems to have like,
sorry, go ahead.
go. I mean, I just say this one has like obviously a new character, like with any of these Persona spinoffs. So like, yeah, they have a new female character that like it seems to like be carrying the motif of like carrying like the banner of revolution. Sort of has like that kind of like sort of like an English sort of setting to it, aesthetic to it. But in terms of like storyline, obviously this has been leaked. I don't really know what the storyline is. But it's just more more goofy adventures. Like the character portrait artwork reminds you of something that you would see like in a Persona Q game.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Persona Q, but slightly different. It's that chibi-esque style. It really reminds me of some other IP, but I can't place it. Like, I don't know if I'm recognizing the artist, but I can't quite place what exactly it's reminding me of. It's not quite the same as Persona Q, but for a Persona-related game, that's the closest comparison.
Yeah, and it seems to have like some interesting settings to it because like they're like it's this sort of like palace world, that has like distinct like locales in it. So like there's like a place where like at some point it looks like some Edo era like ancient Japan sort of setting, and then they're like in a more English like castle type of setting. Yeah, in terms of like gameplay, it seems to like your strategy RPG style that you mentioned, and then like some of the mechanics in it is like some sort of like triangulation formation system, which kind of reminds me of Resonance of Fate, in some aspects. But it's kind of like a first look at it, and it's coming out November 17th according to the trailer.
Right.
This year.
So I think we stated it once, but according to the leaked trailer, Persona 3 Reload is early 2024. However, Persona 5 Tactica has a clear date listed of November 17th of this year.
Yeah. So more Persona 5. I mean, it's kind of the it's what you expect out of it's what you expect out of like new Persona games these days. Like, they're always gonna have a shitload of spin-off games, and it's cool that they branch into other genres, like like Persona 5, like the fighting game.
Still waiting for the 5 fighting game.
I don't know.
That'll be Xbox Showcase 2025.
Yeah, when they leak it again in Instagram,
and it'll be Xbox exclusive for 2 weeks.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of in some sense the biggest like a big fuck ups, but at the same time cool news.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest news of the week. Obviously, we'll follow up with it if there's any new relevant, very key details from obviously the official accompanying press information that we didn't get with the leak. But otherwise, obviously really excited. Kind of nice to see that the rumor mongering can kind of stop because, a lot of correct, but also a lot of misleading information as this thing has been kind of swirling and rumoring for a long, long time now, to kind of have actual something concrete to point to with it. With that, we'll go into some of the announcements of Summer Games Fest, which of course some of the Summer Games Fest like on-site showing is still going on, but this is kind of the talking over the trailers and the announcements that came out of the stage presentation on Thursday. We're gonna open up here with I'll actually open up with the Square Enix announcements. So we have 2 games previously announced that we're going to be talking about here, and that is, of course, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which we knew was coming out slated for this winter, and then Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, kind of the interesting mobile game, kind of collecting all the compilation info in a certain game, in a single game that we've been kind of wondering what happened to it, because it was originally supposed to go into closed beta like late in 2022, but then got delayed to summer. Some more details on that. We'll open with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Of course, this is the second major trailer we've gotten for Rebirth.
Well, before we hop into the trailer, we have to properly set the context of like the trailer itself, right? Because leading up to this trailer was like honestly fucking stupid. To like because because the Final Fantasy VII Twitter was like kind of teed up like 7 days before with like these developer comment images of basically of like very very cookie cutter Q&A things that just started getting posted all of a sudden. Like, question: this is how is the development progressing on FF7 Rebirth? Answer: development progressing, and we're working on nailing down a release date in like big letters in green of the game, and that's from the answer from Yoshinori Kitase. And then the next day is like from Naoki Hamaguchi about like how are they going to journey through this. So it's like we are offering them players a high degree of freedom, experiencing a myriad of different stories, and this keeps on going on and on about very cookie cutter shit, and like
it
people
was like
joke about it.
And then there was some speculation that like they're hinting at something or teasing at something. It's more clear in Japanese than it is in English. And my response to that is that even if that's true, it's not interesting, because we already know from Remake that shenanigans could possibly be afoot. If they're gonna do it, just do it, I guess.
The one nugget, the one small nugget, and it's kind of very cookie cutter answer as well, because of course you would answer it like this to get as many players as possible, was, do I need to have played FF7 Remake to enjoy FF7 Rebirth? And like, no, we have made preparations who didn't get a chance to play a remake to fully enjoy FF7 Rebirth. It's like, one, I get that's the answer that you would give to get as many players as possible, but at the same time, that sounds also fucking stupid, because it's like saying like, hey, do I need to have played Cold Steel 1, 2, or 3 to like understand Cold Steel 4? And it's like, no, we have made preparations to definitely start on Cold Steel 4 if you haven't played 1, 2, or 3. It's like,
it's almost a degree worse than that, though, because they say it's like having your cake, eating it too, and then some third tier, like enjoying a picture of your cake as well. I don't know, because they're saying you don't have to play the original, you don't have to play the remake, you can start with Rebirth as your first game, they're saying. But also, if you have played the original, you're going to see all your faithful reincarnations of all your favorite events, like the events at Cosmo Canyon. But also, we're going to like kind of hover this, we know more than you do about timeline shenanigans and stuff. So it's like they're having their cake, they're eating it too, and then they're also like indulging in some third Schrodinger's cake as well. I don't know. It's very much like, I wish they would just like do it rather than like tease and tease and tease. It's very weird.
Yeah, and before we this also we also get the trailer as well. It's also really funny like how Jeff Keighley kind of teed it up for this, because like he did the Ever Crisis trailer, and then like people were still like we still didn't know if FF7 Rebirth was going to show up at Summer Game Fest or not. It was still like 50-50 at that point. So we thought the trailer would come after Ever Crisis, because that would make sense. So after the Ever Crisis trailer at Summer Games Fest, Keighley was like, speaking of Final Fantasy, you can now go to DoorDash and put this DoorDash promo code for FF16. This FF16 promo. It's like, okay, nice segue, Jeff. Asshole.
I do think, like, as someone who really enjoyed the original game and did enjoy Remake, it is really neat to see some of the events at Cosmo Canyon recreated. Some of the events on, I believe, the first look at Genova. The combat shows like some sort of like tag team capabilities with like a Yuffie and Red, and then like Barrett and Tifa's doing one of her limit breaks. So it's like very like there's a lot of eye candy and like fan service for fans of the game. Like, and that's kind of what we all wanted from this series back when it was originally announced.
Yeah, I think it was definitely like going to be something we knew was going to be a big focus this game based on Intergrade, because Remake Intergrade was very like teed us up for this like co-op attack system, and it's like, okay, they're definitely gonna start leaning on this. They're starting to build the foundation of that with in Intergrade.
And I know one part of the trailer that people have, at least from that I've seen, latch on to is Sephiroth says like, I killed her, so who is she? This is of course relating to an event that happened in the original game, where at the events of the Nibelheim reactor, Sephiroth swings his sword against Tifa, like 15 or 16-year-old Tifa. And I actually remember, and I went to actually like read up on this, like the game isn't very clear on exactly like how she survived that. The impression is that her martial arts master is Zangan, like nursed her back to health and took her to Midgar, but none of that's really shown. It's kind of inferred. So I don't know if they're going to provide more details on that, or if they're going to use that to kind of do their timey-wimey stuff. It's interesting to see what they'll do with that piece of information.
Yeah, the Sephiroth monologue was interesting because it makes you think he's referring to Tifa, and like he's kind of like kind of teasing if he is referring to Tifa, like the current iteration of Tifa as we see her in the remake timeline of like, is she some sort of like outside entity or being that's taking on the form of Tifa, and that's like
or they're doing the thing where the footage of the trailer is not lined up with the voice acting, and it's actually referring to someone else entirely. Like it's actually Aerith or whoever. Like who knows?
I love how some of the fans thought he was referring to Aerith, but the thing is, if you watch the Japanese trailer, he said, "I killed Tifa." It's like,
okay, yeah, okay. So
it's like I guess they don't want the fans to speculate like these misleading information there. Because,
and it's also layered because, like, of course, one of the major conceits of Final Fantasy VII is unreliable narrator. The events are portrayed a certain way, and then you realize that's not what happened. This is what actually happened.
So I miss my change of bad ghosts.
So the fact that there might be like a meta layer on top of that. So the base game of Final Fantasy VII already has unreliable narrator. This is not actually how events played out. Now we have that on top of potentially shifting the destiny of the events as they played out. It's very layered, and you could go a lot of different directions on exactly what latches in what way.
Yeah, and you also see, you have a playable Red, like you saw Red like in battle in remake, but you never actually got to play Red, obviously, in remake, and you saw Yuffie's joining up, proper now with them, which is a kind of a change up when she does join up with them, obviously from the original game. You see the Turks showing up. You see a full model for Elena in here, so you do have a showdown with Elena. And Elena was looking really cool. Like I wasn't expecting to see Elena in this trailer for some reason. So that's just the environments. You're traveling around the kind of this open world. I don't know if it's open world, but this open environment in chocobos with your party. And it seems to be like kind of. I really wonder like what the future of this game is. Are they gonna like allow us to like kind of free roam any direction? Or are they just gonna still have us like follow like a set path, like narrow, like in a linear fashion? Because if it's more of an open thing, it's like, wow, what's the scope of this thing? And they showed at the very end of the trailer, it's like it's coming, in early 2024 on 2-disc on PS5, and that like it be on 2-disc isn't like the craziest idea because on PS4 is on 2-disc. One is the install disc, and one is the play disc, but in the back, like. As for me, because I'm old, I kind of want it to be that if you get the physical version of this game, I want it to be you insert disc 1 and play it, and I want it to be insert disc 2 screen to go to disc 2 if you're playing this physically, because that'd be really fucking cool. Obviously, for a lot of it's like, no, it's not. It's not really fucking cool. It's like, no, you don't understand. The insert disc screens were... Oh man, I missed them.
It's kind of strange because that feels like a relic of like yesteryear, where it's like this game is so great and massive. It's 3 discs. Oh wow, this Final Fantasy VIII, it's 4 discs. Whoa. And now it's like, oh, games are 60, 70, 80, 100 gigabytes now or whatever. And like this game is 2 discs. It feels like they're trying to latch into that old, like, this game is so great and massive that it is 2 discs. It can't be contained with 1 disc. It just feels like I haven't seen that in like the last 10 years, but it still works to some extent. And of course there was plenty of eye candy in the trailer, and Square Enix probably isn't as the pinnacle as they were in like the late 90s in terms of visual fidelity and presentation, but Final Fantasy VII Remake has shown that they do obviously still have like those chops when they want to flex it.
Yeah, there's not like a super big graphical leap in terms of like visual fidelity, but in terms of like kind of like environments and like kind of animations in battle, like you can tell like they really stepped it up in this, and it looks gorgeous. So
yeah, the mithril mines look really good. I believe there's like an environment that I would believe is that cargo ship. There's a part where they're out in it looks like they're out in just the field right outside of Midgard, looking up at the high vista. So I'm excited to see it like a little bit more open, and hopefully on a gameplay front a little less linear, hopefully more wide linear, like a Xenoblade game or like a Final Fantasy 12 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna replay remake and remake Integrate again before this comes out. I think
I'm gonna replay Persona 3 before Persona 3 Reload.
I don't know if I'll do that.
I'm just kidding,
Yeah.
because Remake is a 20-30 hour game, and then Persona is not.
Fucking is because I know if I dive into Persona 3 again and do all that shit, it's not good. I'm gonna want a perfect run again, and it's gonna be bad.
And then, as I teed up, the other trailer that we got from Square Enix is, of course, for Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. So it was ending up delayed from its initial plan to have a closed beta in 2022. Now, on Android devices, if you pre-register, the beta will begin on July 6th and last for about a week. And then we had a new trailer for the game, which when I first watched this trailer, I was like, I don't understand what's going on. So it opens up and it has a lot of like Crisis Core type content. There's Sephiroth's talking to Genesis, and then it immediately pivots to like Final Fantasy the First Soldier content. And Josh helpfully said, hey, just watch the opening movie and you'll be all set. So like this trio of characters that I wasn't introduced to, because I had never watched the First Soldier when that was announced in 2021 before it was shut down earlier this year. Glenn, Matt, and Lucia.
The most memorable FF7 characters.
Yeah, like I don't know if they even have last names. I bet if I go on the wiki that they do from like some short stories or whatever. But so Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. We had this trailer from Summer Games Fest, and literally as I speak into the microphone now, James just actually put up a preview for Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. Because he was able to interface directly with PR and talk about the game before it goes into closed beta this summer. And then I do know that also you, Josh, have been kind of scrutinizing the trailer in terms of like, what is the format of this game? Is it a gacha game? Does it have stamina? Does it not have stamina? It's releasing in 10 chapters, the last we heard, but it sounds like this is a bit of inference, but it sounds like there might have been a little bit of pivot in exactly how the game was going to be configured in terms of microtransactions, rolling mechanics, and things like that. What were you able to glean from what you were seeing out of the UI that was shared in the trailer?
So first off, as we're speaking and recording, like James just barely put up his feature on like his hands-on impressions with FF7 Ever Crisis, and speaking with the staff there, they're looking to launch this game with the full Final Fantasy VII like original story, so like PS1 FF7 story. That's what they're aiming to like launch with.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of like speaking with James and like how he words it in the article. It seems to be taking a lot of cues on the City Opera Omnia mobile game, and just like how this mobile game is being structured, where as you're going through the story stages, there'll be no stamina consumed, so you can like play through the entirety, without limit on that. But obviously, in some of the UI screens in this trailer, there is like a stamina energy system at some parts of this, because there's like there's like standard stages where like you kind of grind for like summons and mats and enhancing your characters, standard mobile game stuff, and maybe those modes will have will consume energy, sort of like in Opera Omnia when you go like into like these dungeons in there where you kind of gather materials to enhance your characters. That's where you actually spend stamina in that game rather than the story itself. So that's what I'm assuming this will be. This also has like a tower sort of system, and all sorts of like mobile game modes and systems that like that's standard in these types of games, these days.
And then we already saw this from one of the recent trailers, but they showcase a big aspect of how likely some of the randomization will be outfits. Like Cloud's in one of his movie outfits. It shows Aerith in an outfit that I actually don't recognize. It's like a battle armor dress. Like I don't know if that's actually from something, but I'm guessing that a lot of those things will be tied to more of the stamina and the dailies. And if you want to just play through the story with the original outfits, hopefully that's a little bit.
I imagine the gacha system is going to be like either you're rolling for outfits or like entirely like different, like same characters but different outfit, and different outfit means different skills. So like say if you get Cloud in his Advent Children outfit, he'll have a different skill layout in his Advent Children outfit than his like base FF7 soldier outfit. But that's what I'm assuming. But obviously we won't really know until the closed beta test begins and people start talking about what they see in it. I've signed up for the beta on my device, so hopefully they choose me, and if not, maybe I can get into it some other way and try to report back and see. I think it's really cool. The visuals of this game, in terms of like, it's very varied in its visuals, but it's all it kind of encompasses like all the visual styles that the compilation of F7 has gone through, in terms of like, you have the original polygonal stuff that's like looks a bit more refined. Obviously, it's not as rough, but just have that polygonal style in some of it, going through the FF7 story. Then you have some of the Crisis Core looking visuals when it's showcasing Crisis Core stuff. Then you have like even like more the highest fidelity visuals in terms of like what you see in FF7 remake. So it makes me. I wonder how they're going to consolidate this with the gacha system, because let's say you're rolling and you're trying to get a new outfit for PS1 FF7 Cloud, and then you also want to roll for like say a Christmas outfit for FF7 remake model Tifa. Can you have them both in the same party, where you have like this polygonal Cloud and this high definition model Tifa in the same party, side by side? Because I think that'd be really stupid and really funny, but really entertaining to see. So I really wonder how they're going to consolidate like the different visual styles in between them in terms of like in battle. And like, I wonder if that's a thing that will be available for like other non-story modes in the game, like say like random like farming quests outside of the story. But then in the story quests themselves, you're kind of locked into like the characters that are artistically and timeline wise like relevant to that story, so it doesn't break up the visual fidelity of that when they're presenting those story stages in it. So
I'm just
that's
kind
kind
of
of
looking forward to this, just to like bin all these compilation things together, because I was actually trying to like Google like, who is Glenn, who is Lucia, and there's a couple different Glens. Apparently there's like a Glenn that's referenced in like a Final Fantasy remake novel adaptation, and then there's like the Glenn with two N's from First Soldier opening cinematic. And I was just trying to like, you know what, it'll be nice not to have to like latch on to a dozen different pieces of media and just play through this. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But
I want to see like more like the other stuff that we haven't really seen like in other like more prevalently outside of their base releases, like Dirge of Cerberus. What does that fucking look like in this game? Like some of the
remind me, because Dirge of Cerberus, if I remember right, has is it? I'm trying to remember. Nero and someone else grabbing Vice, or is it the other? Do I have it backwards? Like it's been so long since I played that.
I think Nero is in Dirge of Cerberus. I think I'm trying to see. I think of Lucia is also there because it's also Vincent focused, right? Yeah, I can't remember.
And then of course Vice made an appearance in Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade.
Yeah,
and then Nero of course as well. So like, it takes a little bit of research to make sure we're all up on the same page about all the different secret endings. Let's see.
But it makes me kind of excited to see like how they're gonna like tell those stories there for like, especially like say like the FF7 like flip phone game. I forgot what it's called off the top of my head. And
Or
how
Crisis?
what was that?
Is it before Crisis?
I think it's before Crisis. Yeah, like how will that be represented in this game? I assume it's not gonna be at launch, but like down the line when they just get some more content updates.
I feel like that's the thing that would be interested me the most, because that game is narrow localized, so that would be like the only way to experience Before Crisis in some form. I do like read like a premise of it, and it does sound kind of interesting, but if it's not localized, you don't know it's interesting. It just becomes this thing, kind of like with Type 0, where people are like, oh, it's never English, and now they want to play it, and they play it, and they kind of get disappointed at the end. No.
I love this show because the first text you see in it is like you see a close up of Sephiroth calling Genesis on a flip phone, and then and then media says we still don't know Sephiroth in dramatic text. It's like, yeah, you're right.
He's a basement dweller that went insane from reading some notes of his mom.
So it's it's definitely one of those like curiosities that it looks so stupid that I have to play it.
The next major announcement from Summer Games Fest actually leaked like a day or two ahead of time based on a scraping of a PlayStation Store page. The announcement here is for the spin-off game in the Like a Dragon, formerly Yakuza series, called Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name. So this was announced back at RGG Summit last year, as a spin-off title of sorts featuring Kiryu and explaining some of the gaps between the events of Yakuza 6 and Yakuza 7. And this was announced at the same presentation that also showed that Like a Dragon 8 would feature both Kiryu and Ichiban. We were expecting to kind of see this at the RGG Summit that was announced for June 16th of this month, but it ended up showing up in the in Summer Games Fest, which I thought was kind of interesting. So we got a new trailer for Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, based on the information from the publisher and previously from that on the store page. A little bit about the premise, about how, and we knew this from last year's announcement, Kiryu is now going by the name Joryu. He has two combat styles, Yakuza and then now Agent. And my favorite thing about this announcement and the new trailer is his agent. He's wearing like a black blazer and like Clark Kent glasses, and just people going along with it, where it's like, man, I'm gonna miss Kiryu. I'm gonna miss Kiryu, but this Joryu guy seems pretty neat. Just stuff like that. And like some of the footage shows like a lot of silly stuff as we expect from these games. Like he's using like Spider-Man tactics when he's in agent mode. Like
he had like grappling like sort of like hooks in like an agent where he can like reel multiple enemies in sort of like a spider web, which is kind of cool. What really stuck out to me is like the enemy population and density. Like some of the fights that like enemy fights that were in the trailers, like it's very populated with a lot of like combatants, and it reminds me of like the numbers that you would see like in an endgame Yakuza game, and you're like when it's like the big climactic finale, you're trying to fight through everyone, so you just have a lot of like combatants on screen. Well, on this one, they're just like it might be like a standard thing where you just have a lot of like enemies on screen fighting Joryu. That was cool. They obviously this is not there can be no like from the footage and the description that they showed us, this is not going to be in Kamurocho. There's going to be no Kamurocho in this. This is going to be in Sotenbori, Yokohama, and near the end of the trailer, there's like this door passages to like this very neon lit castle type environment. Almost looks like a night style paradise sort of thing, which looks really, really cool. Like Pocket, they in the description they say Pocket Circuit is here, live action cabaret club.
Fuck yeah, Pocket Circuit.
Yeah, hell yeah. All my fucking Pocket Circuit stands out there. We're back. We're so fucking back.
And from the announcement, this was more detailed last time than this time with talking to one of the creators. I forget which one specifically, but how this was not a full-fledged game. It was compared at the time to something more like the Kaito Files. Pre-orders are for $49.99, which I guess counts as a budget title these days instead of $70. My impression is that it has kind of grown in scope. It might be slightly shorter than a full-line game. They've kind of shied away from using that sort of language more recently. But based on the price, it might be more of a I don't want to say a budget title, but not quite. I think it's
gonna be like as long as like Yakuza 1 or Yakuza 2.
Right? Yeah.
That's my expectations of it. But just still, plenty of game, and for series fans like me, like I have big questions of like why. Kiryu showed up at like near the end of 7, and I really wanted to know what happened to him between 6 and 7. And this is the game that supposedly will answer those questions. So that's why this is kind of one of the big releases this year that I'm most excited because I'm so invested in that storyline.
And it almost certainly, well, at least my guess is because we know Kiryu is reappearing in Yakuza 8 or Like a Dragon 8. Not only will it explain the gap between 6 and 7, but presumably will also kind of tether into 8 in some fashion. At least that's my guess.
The only bad thing about this is I'm not digging the key visual and the logo. It's kind of like
it doesn't feel. It feels like from a different series or something. Like the font is different. The it's interesting.
It's kind of busy. It's kind of like It's I don't know if it's interesting for me, but it's kind of like I was like, okay, whatever. It's key visual. We can get past this. I'm here for the game. But it's at first blush, I'm just like, okay, whatever.
Because I like associate Yakuza visuals. Now, some of this I'd have to like research and see like, was this a Western localization flair? Because obviously it changed the name to Yakuza, and that they're now reverting back to Like a Dragon as is, but with a lot of like red highlights and more like artistic look. But here it's just like a render of Kiryu taking off his glasses with like this very basic sans serif font underneath like a dragon logo. So it's just interesting. It's a bit of a different look, but maybe it's because it's a side story.
I mean,
And I guess here is the requisite shout out that because Summer Games Fest seems to have unveiled this release. Oh, by the way, this is coming out. When did we say? November
9th.
November 9th. At the RGG Summer Summit this year on June 16th. My guess is we might see a little bit more details from this, but I'm guessing it'll focus on Like a Dragon 8.
Yeah, I assume we're gonna get like live gameplay demo of this, or
Mhm.
or at least like a gameplay walkthrough of this game, say it like showcasing like the new style in action, more intimately. And yeah, I assume definitely we're gonna get for like actual first new details of like a Dragon 8, aside from just like a brief teaser. Hopefully they'll maybe show off some character designs and then like kind of like the synopsis for it. So we'll see. I'm excited. Like the first RGG summit they held last year was really cool.
They had
And
that. They
I
announced 3 games there. They announced Like a
yeah.
Dragon Ishin. They announced the spin-off side story, I guess is more correct. And then Like a Dragon 8 all in one. So
I
if
wonder
we
if
see
they'll
a
have new
surprise
games
this year,
there.
I won't be surprised.
Yeah, I wonder if they have anything like lined up like beyond just these 2 titles, because lots titles, like it would be crazy to see like what like if they also have another new thing in the works. Like I wonder if they're gonna like announce, let's say, a Yakuza like remastered remake of not Ishin, the one before that, Kenzan.
Kenzan. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where like if they didn't, I think that's fine. Here's this game's release, here's this year's release, here's next year's release. But last year they just set their own bar so high. It's like, well, what if they do that again? What if they just say here's what's coming in 2025 and they tease something like that? Shouldn't hold them to it, but it's fun to speculate. The last major thing that's in the RPG space from the Summer Games Fest that we'll talk about here is Bandai Namco and ILCA have announced a new action RPG based on Akira Toriyama's Sandland single-shot manga. Now, I'm not familiar with Sandland. This was the first time I had heard of it. Were you aware of
Pretty
this one?
obscure. It's
Pretty
Yeah,
obscure. You
it's
say it's
pretty
one
obscure
shot.
for Western fans. Like this is a Toriyama one-shot manga that released in 2000, and it's been getting a major push because it's gonna be like a multimedia project. So, this was the animation project. I forgot if it was a film or an OVA. I think it's a film in Japan. This was first that was first like teased by like the Bandai Namco video game channel, like Entertainment America itself. And I always found that very interesting. I was like, it's like why is Bamco Entertainment like advertising like a Sandland animation project on their thing, and like at the time I was like, I wonder if it's like a multimedia thing, and this answers my question. It's like, yes, it is. So they're working with Ilka once again. They worked with Ilka on One Piece Odyssey. So that partnership has been going very well. So yeah, they announced the Sandland video game adaptation. I forgot if they announced PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, Xbox One, and Steam. No release date, and they showed like very like preliminary gameplay footage and setup. The setup of Sandland is sort of very inspired by Mad Max, Metal Mass esque sort of environment, sand environment, almost post apocalyptic style, where you play as like this character named Beelzebub, kind of like a prince.
It's like a demon child prince.
Yeah, yeah. It's a series where demons and humans coexist with one another. So they're kind of he travels with Sheriff Rao and the thief who's a demon. They're on this adventure to go find this legendary spring that's hidden in the world, in this desert world. So in the preliminary things that they showed in this trailer was very much in the spirit of Sandland, of like, hey, you're going to be exploring in like a variety of like different vehicles. So you see something that looks like a metal slug in there, something that looks like sort of like a robotic mech armor there.
Yeah, like a buggy, a mech, a hover. They have like some sort of like crawler with like Gatling guns on it, and they're all like that Toriyama Flare style. It comes through pretty well.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
Like,
variety in the gameplay that they've shown in general. They even have some like fast paced like platforming, and then like some slower pace that looks more like
yeah, you
stealthy.
get out of it, and like there's like a melee aspect to it. There's like some traversal aspects to it, like in terms of like grapple lines in the environment. So it looks really really cool. From this first gameplay version, I need to like I haven't really read up on Sandland itself. Like I need to read up on the source material and maybe go watch the film, because like right now it's like I'm not like it's not really hitting for me as much as it should, because like I don't know much about the source material. If I did, I'm sure I would fucking love it. But for me, it's like if like when it's like comes to these IP sort of like adaptations, like let's say One Piece Odyssey, for example. Like I'm not really these fan, so like I wasn't really um like really sold on One Piece Odyssey and never really got it. But Sandland is a one-shot manga. It's much easier to like get caught up on. It's not like an ongoing thing. It's kind of like its own separate, isolated thing. So I'll just like read that like and finish that, and maybe we'll watch the animation project. And it's hopefully they do this thing justice. It looks really really cool, and Toriyama's a incredible fucking artist. Like that doesn't really need to be said. But
When I see that trailer visually, because of the robots that they were like, using, it kind of makes me wish there was a Chrono Trigger making this stuff. I was
yeah,
like, oh man.
yeah, but yeah, they're really going out all out for Sandland. Either this year or next year, depending on when this comes out and when the film comes out. But that's really cool. Why not? Like just having more Toriyama stuff in HD playable is fucking neat.
There were a few other RPG related announcements at Summer Games Fest. Like we got a new squad based RPG called King Arthur Legends Rise, but it was mostly a cinematic trailer, and then alongside with the gameplay trailer, we had a little bit of a look in on Baldur's Gate 3. The antagonist is going to be acted by Jason Isaacs, who was Lucius Malfoy in Harry Potter series. And then we got another look at one of the new Amazon Games MMOs, Throne of Liberty, which it's an MMO trailer, so it's hard to know exactly like how much of it is just concept and when we'll actually see it, because none of these things were announced in terms of the MMO. We did get the announcement that Honkai Star Rail will be arriving on PlayStation 5 before the end of the year in 2023. And as our resident new Star Rail expert, Chow, was there anything here that they showed with the update, or they recently updated the game to 1.1? Like, how has your Star Rail experience been going since the release back in April?
I mean, I still enjoy the game, but once you get to end game, there's really nothing to do. It's up for grinding, right? But
Wow, that sounds just like
yes,
Genshin.
yes, it is that problem again. They're drip feeding content because the main story is not updated yet. So if you want to come back and heard that, oh, there's a new patch, but no, the main story has not updated. We're still left in the kind of like the middle of nowhere, so we're kind of like not having anything. To
Okay,
do
so
with that.
what did this trailer show, child? What is there anything relevant that got you excited? Like I know they showcased the new character that just recently released on it.
There is an event that's related to this character, and this character is awesome. This new character is Silver Wolf. She's a hacker. She's a gamer, and if you're a gamer, you can totally relate to her because she'll have all these like
not a gamer. Sorry.
Yeah.
she'll text you and it'll be like, "Hey, have you heard about that new gotcha banner?" And it's like, your character can have different replies, and you could reply like, "What the hell you're talking about?" Or "Yeah, I'm interested," and she'll be like, "Hey, just poll. Don't hesitate. You'll get it." And
That seems kind of I don't know. Like I get that it's a meta. It's kind of like kind of breaking the fourth wall.
Tongue in cheek,
But it's
yeah.
also kind of pulling like kind of peer pressuring you if you don't have like pulls to like.
that's what she said. But you know what
along.
happened to her? Because right after you finish that piece of line, it turns out she was rolling and she didn't get what she wants, and she basically
Mhm.
like sent tears emo to you.
Mm.
So,
So you can just be like her for real if you do that, and
but
you relate to her.
this entire event, so in there's this new event. They introduced this new character called Screwlum. It's like this robot that you see in like the light cones art. He's like this robot, and he's like this genius. So it's like this entire event is like teen hacker versus a 4D chess like Galaxy Brains. And the event is just fucking hilarious on what happens to Silver Wolf, because she, like, her entire life is a game. Like, she is looking for a challenge, and she will do anything that will get her out of boredom. So, like, if you're applying for the new event, just do it for a Silver Wolf event. That'll do it.
Did the 1.1 update release? Like I see here early June.
Yeah, it's released. The 1.1
okay.
released. But the thing is, not all the events are available yet. So only the first 2 events is available. The first event is
it's time gated.
It is time gated, but it's better than how Genshin handles things. Basically, any event that are expired, they added this kind of like a memories of recollection or something, and you could just kind of like play past events that you missed out, unlike Genshin, where if you missed them, it's gone permanently. But now you can actually revisit old events. It's just that how the system in Honkai is that you don't get the exact same rewards as they first launched. The rewards are more scaled down. Imagine that you only get like 1,000 gems in the original event. Now you only get like 600. It's like scaled down for not playing it on launch. And I could take that. I could take rewards being missed out rather than completely like missed out like key events like in Genshin, because some of them are like related to like story characters. Like the first event that had Mona in it, it's actually like even setting up like the new bad guy for the next arc. And then like when you start the next arc, it's like, let's just say you never played the event, it's like, where was the setup? Oh, it was in that event that you fucking missed out like a year ago. And you're like, what? So it's like, it's one of those things. And it's like this game fixes like every problem that happens in Genshin that Genshin just refuses to fix. It's like Genshin is like their little black sheep that they don't give a shit about, but it makes them money, so they have to go back to it or some crap.
Okay, back to the new trailer.
Do you like this game or not?
Is there anything in the new Honkai Star Rail trailer that like that Honkai Star Rail players didn't know about?
Probably not. I think they know more than what they revealed. I think because hardcore community probably paid too much attention to the leaks, and they're all like saving their gems for like the big character that are going to come out in like the next 2 patches.
Okay, so there's not so aside from the launch trailer, not the PlayStation release window announcement from the trailer, there's nothing new in the trailer really.
I don't think so. Like, I watched the trailer and it was like, it's more like a promo for like the current arc, because like, Silver was a big deal. Like, she is the new 5-star limited character, and if you're into Honkai, she has the same face as Bronya. Bronya is like in every single like Hoyoverse kind of thing. So yeah, like everything is done to promote her, and then the other thing is to promote the PS5 launch. I know some players are really bummed out about this news because they don't have PS4 support. I guess they don't want.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense why there won't be any PS4 support.
Maybe they see it as a dying console and don't want to support it.
Really? I would think it has a fucking massive install base already.
That's what I would assume. It's like, but they figure it's like, maybe it's very late in the life cycle. They don't want to support it and stuck in the.
If you think about the long run, yeah, I guess if you think about like, do we really want to keep on supporting PS4 like 5 years down the line?
Well, at least they weren't stupid enough to announce a Switch announcement.
So
where's that Genshin Switch port, guys?
Personally on my end,
you're done.
I'm not gonna touch Star Rail again, probably because like I found my game that I enjoy, but I'm happy for the people who enjoy Star Rail. That's fine. I get it. I understand why they like it. I like playing this game that no one plays, and I think it's really cool just having like my own smaller secret game that I play while everyone plays the popular one, and I'm just playing a smaller thing.
Like I love everything about this game. It's just I just don't like their business model and the drip feeding content that they do from Genshin. It's like, here, have a little bite, come back next day and give it a little bite.
Now you can just hopscotch between the 2 games and you'll be good, right?
No, it's okay because this time gate the event shit it's like I'm feeling it too, because in the small little game that I play, which is Aether Gazer still, that I talked about like last week, I think. Like it has it has its first event, and there's multiple time gates to this fucking event too. So it's stupid, but I'm just like fucking hate modern gacha gaming so much.
Imagine going to McDonald's and you order the Happy Meal and you only get the fries, and they tell you to come back next day you want the soft drink. Imagine that.
No, I want
But-
McDonald's.
That is
in-
the Hoyoverse experience.
But it's okay because I got super lucky in my super secret game, and I got like the new limited character in
My
one
luck ran
roll,
out.
and her signature weapon in one roll, and I'm like, I thought this was gonna be my one way to like maybe I should like not play this game anymore because gacha games are bad. But then
You know what? You know what luck in Honkai is? I haven't won the 50-50 once.
no,
I used the roll simulator that counts all your rolls, and it says that I have won the 50-50 0 times.
well. All right, yeah. Well, that's our little fucking gremlin update for the bad games that we play.
The last thing that I have listed here, I believe, from Summer Games Fest that we're covering here is Lies of P. This is that unexplainable Souls-like Pinocchio story. Super grim dark. Has a release date of September 19th for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. And then available now, there is a demo. I do know that I saw some people in our Discord had played this and had some impressions on it. I didn't really dive too deeply into what they thought. I haven't played the demo myself, but it is available now, and
Yeah,
we got a new release date trailer alongside the announcement.
I played a tiny bit of the demo. It's very much like you're very much a Bloodborne in terms of like how it controls and like the flow of combat. I do like, and I think it's like one of the left bumper or left trigger. You can like use like the steel arm that Pinocchio has, and like you can like charge up a fucking full punch and like the one shot like a grunt with it, which is really funny. I do think that like their blood vial system is kind of interesting, where it's like you don't farm for blood vial consumables like in Bloodborne. It's like it's much more on a charge system where like you consume a blood vial, and if you want to like restore more blood vial charges, like you have to continually like kind of engage in combat, land hits to kind of charge up like your health resources in it. But I only was able to touch it up for very briefly because I had other stuff to do. So maybe I'll check it out more later, or maybe I'll just wait for the full game. Like I don't know. Like I'm just like it's one of those. It's like okay, I see that it's like a full working game and like it seems interesting. So maybe I'll just wait for the full release. I don't know.
Was there a demo before of Lies of P? Because I remember people were talking about it and said it was very jank back in the day.
Maybe it was like on a hands-on event that James went to, their contributor went to. But
I don't think
from what
I don't think it had a public demo. Maybe
yeah, I
it
did
was
have a public demo. It might have been like a hands-on demo, like at a preview event, that
or
a
like some
contributor
sort of like stress test. But yeah,
yeah. So, but for the way it plays, like I don't think it's kind of jank. I think what I think is they should have kept the placeholder voices that was going around social media.
oh yeah, I
For
remember
it.
that.
They should have kept that. I would have been like super sold on the game. If they kept that, I'm like, oh man, that's amazing.
And that covers us for all the announcements, at least all the RPG adjacent ones from Summer Games Fest. Of course, like we stated, and already kind of shown with his Ever Crisis preview piece, but James has a few appointments this weekend and will hopefully over the next 7 days and be back with us next week on the podcast to talk about his hands-on experience at the event. So of course, we're looking forward to that. And then alongside all the other events that are going to be happening over the next week. We'll move now into the announcements from the Guerrilla Collective stream. I believe this was on Tuesday or Wednesday. It was a day or two before the Summer Games Fest streams. A lot more of indie AA sort of titles here. I kind of marked it as 3 announcements and then 3 updates on previously announced games. I'll do the announcements first, and we'll just kind of go through these one by one pretty quickly. We got an announcement of a game called Terra Memoria. This is from being published by Dear Villagers. And this is kind of an interesting game that has kind of an HD 2D art style, very meant to be very like chill and relaxed. They actually kind of market it as a cozy RPG, which is always, it seems to be like a growing market for those sorts of games that are low stress, kind of high immersion.
Yeah, this has a really cool look to this game.
Mhm. So it seems like it's like a mix between like a Stardew Valley and a Rune Factory, but in a more like RPG wrapper. It's like an HD 2D Harvestella, maybe. That's based on the announcement trailer, just me gleaning from like 40 seconds of footage. So
you can make train tracks. You can I don't know why you make train tracks, but you sure can make train tracks.
Yeah, so it's announced for all consoles: Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam. Actually, only next gen. So Switch, but not PS4, Xbox One, but and Steam, but no release date quite yet. This is just an initial announcement. And we have, of course, a news post on site with the initial screenshots and the press release for the game from the publisher. We also got the announcement of Dark Deity 2, announced for PC only at this time. Dark Deity came out like a year or two ago as a very clearly Fire Emblem inspired indie title. I believe Jess covered it for us for the site. Dark Deity 1, her impressions were kind of lukewarm, like more positive than negative, but didn't light the world on fire. But apparently they was successful enough to greenlight a sequel. So we got an announcement trailer for Dark Deity 2, very clearly GBA Fire Emblem as kind of like the target aesthetic and audience.
This seems, I don't know if like, I don't. For me, it's like I feel like if this is coming out either this year or next year, it feels like this game was like always in development. Even as the first one was coming out, I don't think this is like a game you start developing after the first game comes out. If that, you know what I mean?
All right.
Like, yeah, like that's my impression of it. Because when I think of game development, I think of like this is this is a lengthy process, right? So I don't think it's like one of those things like it got greenlit just as like at the moment that as soon as they confirmed, hey, the first one sold well. I think
they're probably in development before it was sold. It's like, was it? Do you remember? Was it Mighty Number 9?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like already doing like asking crowdfunding for a sequel. Well, not like a sequel, like a different side project, Red Ash.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Before that, the game even came out, and people were like, "Why are you like getting money for a game that you haven't even released yet?" It's like, oh, this is standard in the industry. We already like have plans and sequels before it even sells and stuff, or something like that. You know,
that's true. I mean, that does happen quite a bit in the industry of like when you think about like big series that they already have like thinking about a sequel like in development. Whether they start developing or not in earnest is another story. But there's always like pre-plans of like, hey, if we were to make a follow-up, what would it look like?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at Forspoken. I mean, the DLC ends with the sequel.
Let's fucking go, dude. Wow, I want to see the Forspoken 2 dev docs.
The last game announcement that was given at the Guerrilla Collective was a turn-based RPG called Grifford Academy. It is very much kind of like a Harry Potter themed sort of RPG in terms of like a wizarding school dealing with monsters, learning how to cast magic, a trio of protagonists, and pretty thorough trailer for an announcement. Only announced for PC and mobile. No release date, but a fairly detailed press release talking about how the combat works, how the progression works, and a decent number of screenshots. It almost kind of looks like Telltale Game-esque in a bit, but with more RPG like flavoring to it.
It does adopt that sort of like presentation that not a lot of games use, where like they have like the main text conversation be at the middle, vertical, like it's like a vertical pillar at the center of the screen. Going, it kind of gives it a distinct look from other types of games.
So those are the three kind of RPG adjacent announcements from Guerrilla Collective. We did get some updates on some previously announced RPGs. Now, two of these, we kind of got a new trailer kind of showcasing some more of the gameplay of the game, but really no other details about release. Those two are Sacrifire and Demonschool. So Sacrifire was initially announced, I believe, 2 years ago when it was kickstarted in 2021, and then Demonschool was at the PC Gaming Show last year. Both of these are like TBA announced 2023, but we got a new look in here at the Guerrilla Collective, but no release date quite yet. Both of them got a new gameplay trailer. For Sacrifire, it focuses mostly on combat. One of the key things from the Sacrifire trailer that is very obvious is one of the main marketing points that they've been making is that Sakuraba of like Tales and Star Ocean fame has been doing the soundtrack. Did Sakuraba do Star Ocean? I know he did Tales.
Yeah, Sakuraba does the Star Ocean. I don't know. I don't know if like Sakuraba is like doing like the whole soundtrack or just contributing to a track or two. I don't know what the extent of Sakuraba's like contribution is to Sacrifire.
Yeah, but then the soundtrack on Sacrifire sounds very clearly Sakuraba. Like it sounds like it could have been pulled from another game.
Yeah, so just to be clear, because there will be some like indie games that will say, hey, like Yasunori Mitsuda was on this, and like they only did like the theme of the game and like not the rest of the tracks. So
yeah, so don't know the extent of contribution here, but the soundtrack they picked for the trailer definitely clearly is Sakuraba. And then Demonschool also got a look in trailer. Very interesting kind of perspective here of the kind of the horror tactical aesthetic.
It kind of reminds me of the very first Persona game, if you get what I'm saying. Except without the tactical elements to it, but like just like when you're in the classroom with the isometric view and like the
it's definitely meant to evoke that feeling of like how older Persona games had their like battle systems isometric. Wise. So like that's kind of the big selling point. Like one of the points when they first announced this game, along like the Italian roots art style and a very distinct look to it. Like the new trailer that they showed at the Guerrilla Collective was showing off more like party members, including T.I. and Kestrel, I believe, from the press release.
And in the first line under the trailer, they say Persona and Shin Megami Tensei. They also say Italian horror cinema. So there you go.
Never seen an Italian horror movie in my life.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can be introduced to the concept by playing Demonschool.
Hopefully, it's cool. It looks really neat. It's very visually striking. All I really need to do is like really stick the landing, and hopefully, it does that.
Then the last indie game that we got an update on is for World of Horror. This is a game that's been in early access since like 2020. It's been in early access for like 2 or 3 years. I remember it was in one of the PC gaming shows right when E3 was just winding down right before the pandemic. This is like got the monochromatic, almost like adventure game art style. I don't know how else to really describe it without pulling up the trailer for it. But it's finally got a full official release date coming out of early access. It'll be releasing on October 19th, 2023. That includes multiple PC clients, Steam, GOG, and itch, as well as PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, so that's there's something I've been looking forward to for years. Like a horror RPG. The art style is very, very inspired by Junji Ito. It just has a distinct look and feel to it that I've just been eagerly anticipating for a long time. So hopefully the October 19th release date that they announced does stick and is like gonna be no more delays after that. It's a long road because I know it's gone through development hell up and down behind the scenes shortly. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see what the final game looks like. I'm definitely gonna check it out. Come hell or high water, I guess.
And that covers it for the Guerrilla Collective. So we've covered both the Summer Games Fest and that. Just a few more other headlines before we wrap out this first of 2 pretty packed news-focused podcasts. This one is one that was announced a couple years ago and then went dark. The re-release of the 2002 original Xbox RPG Enclave was announced. Enclave HD was announced a couple years ago. It finally now has a release date of June 29th for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch from developer Starbreeze and publisher Ziggurat. I guess Ziggurat's doing the remake or the re-release. And the reason why I brought this up is because it's coming out on June 29th. So is it June 29th or July 29th? One sec.
July 29th.
Okay, July 29th. Sorry, I think I misspoke earlier. July 29th is that Xbox Original and early Xbox 360 kind of has a lot of these like hidden gem, good word of mouth games. I'm thinking like Cameo and like Azurek.
I'm sorry. In the trailer, it says June 29th. In the article, it says June 29th, but then our database it says July. The original release date was July 29th, like
Oh,
2002. Okay,
oh,
yeah,
okay. I see
okay,
that.
yeah.
All
I
right.
see. Okay, I see it now. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Okay. So to clarify, Enclave came out on July 29th, 2002. Enclave's re-release is coming out June 29th this year. There we go.
Yes.
So I saw those two numbers. I'm like, wait, is it June or July? But
Yeah,
anyway,
that's so confusing.
it's just like it's kind of neat to see like some of these original Xbox games or Xbox 360 games like that are odd exclusives that never really made it big, but kind of might have like a cult following. I don't really know how well. Like if I pull up Metacritic's page for Enclave, I have no idea what I'm going to see. Let's see what I find out. Enclave, Metacritic,
I would like to see Jade Dynasty on other platforms.
71. So
That'd be great.
maybe it's got some hidden like good ideas, but I'm always just a fan of preservation and making games available to more players, and maybe it'll be kind of an interesting little game for adventurous people to try out. But yep, coming out in just a few weeks. Kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, we got an announcement from NIS America that they will be delisting 6 of their published games from PlayStation Network and the Nintendo Switch eShop. These games include Demon Gaze 2, God Wars, The Lost Child, and Natural Doctrine. These delistings will begin June 11th, so basically as we're recording this podcast, and will continue through the end of the year towards November. Now, the reason for this seems to be based on the fact that NIS America was publishing the Western release of Kadokawa Games titles that they self-published in Japan. However, Kadokawa Games back in May of 2022 kind of split with a lot of its talent, including its CEO, forming a new company called Dragami Games. So basically, this just seems like kind of licenses or IP ownership might be changing hands. And it's happened previously with NIS America with the Danganronpa series, which were eventually relisted under Spike Chunsoft. So I know I just listed like a lot of different series and titles there, but it seems like we have some precedent for this. These games should hopefully come back to the platforms once the rights or the IP ownership is transferred to the new publisher. But for those that want to own it on the PlayStation Network or the eShop, just note that they will be delisting over the next couple months. It looks like Demon's Gaze is coming out, is being delisted from the Vita, like within a day or two, followed by The Lost Child, then God Wars, and then the others throughout the rest of the year. Our news posts on this from Josh Tolentino give out all the dates as well, of course, NIS America's official announcement of the delisting. So just kind of a heads up here of some games being inaccessible on some storefronts for hopefully a limited time.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like one of those things. Like nothing's ever guaranteed, right? Because like at least with Demon Gaze, like you have Demon Gaze Extra re-released on Steam under Dragami, but then like Demon Gaze 2 never hit Steam. So once that's delisted, there'll be no way to get Demon Gaze 2, you know, in the West, as far as we know. The God Wars and God Wars: The Complete Legend, like you can. I know there's a form of like God Wars on Steam through like the complete collection and everything like that. So God Wars is preserved in some way in that aspect. I think it's also on Switch. Oh yeah, this also shows that the Switch is being delisted. So God Wars can still be gotten on Steam, as far as I know. The Lost Child never went to Steam, I believe. And Natural Doctrine never went on Steam. So, and for those, like especially Natural Doctrine, like those are very very old titles. So there's no guarantee that Dragami will like put it up back themselves, whether it's on another platform or the same platforms, you know. So I wouldn't take it for granted. Personally,
Obviously we're kind of hoping and expecting they will, but we don't know how long the process will take or if it will reach the finish line. So just it's good of NIS America to give the heads up, even though arguably not a lot of heads up for some of these games delisting literally on the 11th.
Yeah, and remember, like this on top of didn't NIS America do a price hike like in the last few months too, or already I think they raised the titles for like an East title and some older titles as well, or which is weird. So
I don't remember.
NIS America raised prices.
Looks like they did a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I don't know if it was a couple. Oh, okay, yeah, on the 2021. Wow, sorry, it was 2021. Holy shit, it felt like a few months ago. What the fuck?
That's how I feel half the time.
Holy shit, dude.
In other news, this is not really related to any of the other topics, but Star Wars: The Old Republic, which has been owned and developed by BioWare and of course by owner-publisher Electronic Arts, based on a post from IGN, it seems like that Electronic Arts is getting ready to transfer like the ownership and maintenance of Star Wars: The Old Republic from BioWare to a third-party studio, reportedly called Broadsword Online Games, so that BioWare can kind of shift back its focus towards the single-player projects such as Dragon Age and Mass Effect. So I am not a player of Star Wars: The Old Republic. I haven't gone on their like Reddit page to see how they feel about this news. The only like precedent that I'm aware of is that I do know that Lord of the Rings Online transferred ownership way back in the day from its original developer over to Standing Stone Games, and of course that was kind of in the news recently because Amazon's making another Lord of the Rings MMO apparently in the next decade or so. So it's kind of like, I don't know exactly like whether this is good news or bad news, because I guess you kind of have to hope that like things progress as normal. Obviously, Star Wars: Old Republic is not a new game anymore, but probably has a loyal, dedicated fan base, hoping that if it does change hands, that it will just keep maintaining things and giving it the support it needs for its current player base.
Yeah, it's always tricky to like start winding down like an MMO that's gone on for a while. Like I can't even imagine like what Blizzard will do when they have to start thinking about winding down WoW World of Warcraft, because I'm sure they've probably discussed it internally many times, and it's like, well, can we do it now? No. Oh, okay. Well,
I do know like the term maintenance mode is almost like a derogatory term in terms of like a game that gets no content updates anymore. But I'm sure that's kind of like a thankless job, that, you know, making sure that the, server issues are sorted and maintenance is performed. Yeah. And, the experience for those that are still playing the game, or like I could go and start my new Old Republic character now if I wanted to, making sure that my experience is still going to be okay as a newcomer to the game, potentially. So if this does end up reportedly being true, hopefully it's as seamless as possible. And, I'm not familiar with Broadsword Online Games, but it'd be kind of interesting for, they did mention that, obviously one of the considerations here is current staff on BioWare working on Star Wars: The Old Republic. Are they going to have positions, or is there going to be redundancy, or are there layoffs pending? Obviously we hope that's as, minimized as well. So, or they're going to be finding new roles working on the new single player projects over with Dragon Age or Mass Effect. So kind of a lot of a speculation at this point, but this is all just based on the report from IGN. So once things are official, we'll follow up if needed. Two tiny little small news updates here at the end. I had no idea where to place this one. The long announced, long dormant release of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. So this game has had kind of a surprise announcement and then sudden removal of Hardsuit Labs from the project. Paradox, the publisher, has been dark for a long time on the status of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. They recently posted that they are promising a full re-reveal of the cult classic sequel later this year in September. They've also released a new batch of screenshots, and they've said those that have pre-ordered certain editions of the game, since the game has effectively been rebooted, they are announcing that they're refunding all physical pre-orders, and then digital pre-orders can be refunded by request of the buyer. The most interesting thing about this is that this is the only game entity that I'm aware of on our site that underneath on the sidebar, if you go to rpgsite.net, it'll say publisher Paradox Interactive, developer unknown. Because we just do not know. Like it was Hardsuit Labs, and then they were pulled off. They brought back the writer Brian Mitsoda, and then he was let go. That was a kind of its own little mini controversy. Paradox has promised that the game is still being worked on, and they're kind of doing the same thing here. But it's kind of like we'll hear more in September. if you paid for it, will refund you. So this is just kind of a very strange thing to keep an eye on.
Yeah, stay tuned, I guess, because we don't fucking know either. It's a mess. But,
And I remember back in like 2020 or was it 2019? I don't remember how long ago it was. Like they were doing like regular marketing. Like every couple weeks they were saying, here's one of the vampire clans, here's the Malkavians. I might be forgetting some of the specific names, and the areas that they live and what they specialize in. And then it just went dark like for years and years. So we will follow back up in September to see what the status of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is. And the last thing, we'll end this podcast on a positive note. Octopath Traveler 2 has surpassed 1 million units sold worldwide. Obviously, a good milestone for that game. It's kind of releasing in a different paradigm from the first game, which of course was initially Switch exclusive and then made its way to PC and Xbox. This one released on PC, Switch, and PlayStation, not on Xbox. I do know that there's some rumor mongering that it bombed or people were concerned about it. And people are still kind of wondering, is 1 million sales good or not for this game? Clearly, the Square Enix's official... Good. Yeah, I mean, they celebrated it and gave new artwork on it on their social media page, so seems like it's good to me. Obviously, a game that we've talked about on the podcast previously with pretty high regards kind of across the board.
Something I need to make time for one day.
Yeah, I'm glad it's doing good. I always keep seeing the game being discounted a lot in a lot of shops, so I'm wondering if it's like done really poorly. But reaching that 1 million milestone, it's like some positive note, I guess.
And that wraps up all the news from this week of the Tetracast. Of course, I've kind of already spent a decent amount of time preempting all the stuff we'll see next week. Not only new announcements that are yet to be announced on all the different showcases that are going to be happening over the next 7 days, but also following up on some of the leaks that we initially were able to talk about this week. Of course, from James's impressions as he's back next week about the stuff that he's experiencing hands-on. And then, things that we can't even plan for, the known unknowns going into next week. So
there's a Capcom showcase in 2 days, right?
Well, I mean, I kind of listed a lot of them. Let's go back through them. It's Capcom, RGG, Xbox, of course, PC gaming show. There's one I'm missing, I know at least. So there's a handful of them.
Yeah. And I mean, there's just gonna be a lot. That's the long show. It's like there's a lot.
There is. Get for killing E3. It shows every day.
Yeah, there is a lot. But as always, thank you all so much for listening. All of the news posts, as we stay on top of them, will be on our website at rpgsite.net. Big shout out to all of our different contributors that contribute to keeping on top of that news as we get up on the site and talk about it here. Because I come home and during the day and just catching up on all these trailers, like where was this announced? And then you get the trailer, you get the publisher details, sometimes late, or you get the same game showing up in multiple events with slightly different information. So sometimes it takes a lot to kind of wrangle it all together and get it presentable, either on the news or within the podcast format.
Yeah, the show, like Adam stepped out earlier to do new stuff because he was feeling stressed and wanted to do news, so that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So a big shout out to Adam and one of our newer contributors, Josh Tolentino, for keeping it up on that end of the news, and of course shout out to James once again for holding it down for us over there on site over in Los Angeles. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for them.
Mm-hmm. And you can
incredible.
You can find RPG Site on all the social media platforms. Just search for RPG Site on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you should be able to find us. You can join our Discord by hitting the link at the top of our homepage or going to discord.gg/RPG Site to talk about all the announcements or the new demos as they release. Still that rumored, or not even rumored, announced, but don't know the date of the Final Fantasy 16 demo. Might be landing anytime soon because we're only a few weeks away from that game releasing. So that's also in the background. Please, if you listen to this podcast and you have either good things to say or things we can improve on, go ahead and leave us a comment or a rating. We'd love to see those. And we will be back next week with likely a fairly long episode of the Tetracast. So I will reconvene with hopefully the whole crew then. But until you hear from us following up then, stay safe and take care. And we will talk to you guys next week.